So, once again, we are here back yet again with Nathan and Nick, and we are joined by our friend and unfortunately an engineer here, as we always make fun of them, Mr. Matt. I am me. We are here not with the brains and the looks yet again, but we do have three gorgeous human beings to take up John's spot as being the looks and Nick to be the brains. I mean, come on. Like the rest of us, we don't have half the knowledge that you do here, buddy. So you've probably been playing longer than all of us. Let's be honest here. So anyway, today here on Nerve Check, we are doing an overview of the Riftforged Orcs. So I've got on my good friend Mr. Nathan Cerrone, who I met playing Riftforged. We have Matt Langtree. Matt, I met playing orcs, believe it or not, and I'm pretty sure he knows what they're doing. And we have Nick, yet again, one of the most killiest players we know, who I know is a good a fan of playing Riftforged and is taking to the Masters. So we thought we'd pick their brains a little bit and see where things go. How you all doing, gents?
Good.
Yeah,
good.
Great.
All right. So let's keep things the way we normally do on here. And we'll just get into things. So, Riftforged, Stormstrike being the army-wide special rule, as most army-wide things seem to be. Nathan, these are on like what, 3 different units in that?
Yeah, 4. 1 character, and then 3 of the generic heroes: the Wizard, the Riftforger, and the Stormbringer.
And Stormstrike is what roughly?
When you roll a 6 to hit, he counts as 2 hits. Result at blast 2.
Fantastic. Is there anybody that, well, other than, I'm going to say his name quietly just because it's Thonar. So I know you're supposed to scream his name whenever he actually comes on. But is there anybody else other than him that works best on, or is that just kind of something that you guys use a lot of, something you only put on in passing? Is it something you even think about when you're putting this on?
It would work good on the Stormcaller as well as Thonar, but I don't know people who use a lot of Stormcallers just because of what you get for the price. But outside of that, I don't really think it comes into play very often.
Yeah. I think I see people putting it on the Riftforger, kind of using him as like a mini hero hunter or something. Give him Host Shadow Beast. He's got 3 attacks plus the 4 from Host. Pay 5 points, and he maybe gets 3 or 4 hits, something like that. Just kind of that, but
so Stormcaller stacks with it doesn't. It's only on this 1 attack, right? Yeah.
Well, the Riftforger has 3 base, and then Riftforger base for 4. So
yeah. All right. All right. What about you there, Matt? Have you been using that a lot lately, or not really?
I think it went off at I've played like 6 games recently with them, and I think it went off once on the mage. It's not even something I think about until I roll a 6. I'm like, oh, maybe I get an extra one, but for the most part, I'm not going to build a list around Thonar and those other guys, right? So
right, but it's not something that you actually look at. It's not something that brings you to the list. Then
no. It was kind of a holdover from like when Host Shadow Beast was giving you extra attacks.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really been updated to match with the Host Shadow Beast. At least that's what I think. I might be wrong there, but it
I just want to add, it does bring me to the list. It's not good, but it brings me to the list. It's very much part of the Riftforged Orcs aesthetic and is what brought me to them in the first place and why I'm still playing them and making the army that I've been talking about for like 3 years now and haven't painted a single model for. So I like the idea of it, but not so much the actual rules as far as they go helping you win games.
So just out of the blue here, if we could, like, is there something else you would like want to see this on? I mean, obviously, I sure as hell don't want to see this on like a unit of Hell Strikers or like a unit of like 30 attack guys where it could come. But is there something else is there another place you might want to put something like this?
I wouldn't mind it on like the new Chariot hero we got, or the little 5 attack Manicore guy. It would probably be too good because he's too easy to hit flanks and stuff. Even the Giant, like some of the big Halo units, right?
Actually, the Giant's not. That's like there's the mini Giant, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but having that on him might be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah.
How about you there, Matt? Is there anything else you'd want to put something like this on, or
Or when you were saying the mini giant, you mean like the troll? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, he's a troll.
That would be a
Storm-
good one because
Storm
he's not.
Slayer?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Storm
he's
Slayer.
not crazy, right? So I think
Right.
that would be fair to add him to.
Yeah, the Storm
him.
Slayer. I think that would be kind of because it's what is it? No, not the Storm Slayer. Who am I thinking of?
Yeah, you're
Storm
thinking the
Slayer.
Storm Slayer. It's the
Yeah.
monster. 7
Yeah.
attacks, melee 3 or whatever.
Yeah,
8
Yeah.
attacks.
yeah, 8 attacks there. I think that would be a great thing to put something like that on. I think that's something that we should actually. Well, that's something that you would hope that they would be looking at anyway.
I actually think they should give it to everyone and just cap how many successes you get, because
Oh,
that's what they do in a lot of
that's
other
true.
armies, like Salamanders have something similar. You know, all those ones where you can reroll X amount up to X amount of dice. Why can't they just have Storm attack? You know, with the maximum of 2 hits, extra hits, and then it
Yeah.
would be balanced, and they would still have a cool army ride ability. Whereas they really don't have that.
Kind of like with the crocodile allows you to reroll ones, that sort of thing. So you'd
Right.
be able to like
Yeah.
storm strike for. I've got 6s. I got 6 of them, but only three of them get the double, sort of thing.
Even like for me, even if it was like 20 or 35 points, but you can only use it once per game, and you could put it on like the Horde of Orcs, I wouldn't mind that, right? Like if it's one where a turn where I need to guarantee some extra damage and I'm rolling for 6s, I would pop something like that.
All right. All right. Well, that's a good place to start. All right. Well, let's get into the list a little bit here. And as I've been saying to these guys, we're going to do this a little bit different. 3-hour army reviews are great. We're hoping that this does not happen on this one. So if you're looking for stats and everything on it, this might not be the thing you want to listen to. However, I guarantee you will get a decent overview of the list itself. These are all guys that have played it a ton. I'm just here to direct the chaos, and hopefully we direct it down the way it should be. All right, I'll start here with the Moraks. The Moraks, they are a troop in a regiment, and they do come with their fearless unit. And I think their biggest thing is the wild charge. Now these are imports from the orc list. So do you guys use this? Is there anything that do you have any actual use for these? Do they show up in your list?
So I hadn't even looked at them because we didn't have the war drum for the longest time, which I think is the only way to kind of get them into being real boys nerve wise. They kind of feel a little like unsynergistic with the rest of the list. They don't benefit from the formation, which is supposed to benefit all orcs because the 2 wild charges don't stack. You don't get the man splitter for like the thunderous charge aura. So they're nice. It's there. Might find a use for them eventually, but they don't do anything for me really with the rest of the list.
All right. What about you there, Nick?
Yeah, I think they're a good unit, but before the last update, I felt that the being an orc rather than a Riftforged Orc hurt them more. And also there wasn't war drums. Now that there's war drums, and now that host Shadow Beast works in a different way, and the Riftforged keyword isn't as impactful as it used to be, because I don't really care so much. You know, when every one of those successes mattered on a host Shadow Beast, it was one thing. But now if I don't get the full bonus on my shrine, it's not the biggest deal in the world. So I think they're a pretty good unit. I don't actually use them because I use a whole bunch of other stuff, but I think that there's definitely a place to be used in the army.
And how about you, Matt? Have you even looked at these things yet? Not really?
Well, I use them in orcs for sure. I think the problem I find with the wild charge on movement, and this is like game wide on movement speed 5, is they handed out a lot of wild charge to stuff that's speed 6. I find yourself, right? The fishmen have wild charge. So suddenly it's like when it first came out, and I can't remember if it was like at the start of 3rd, or it felt like it was a little bit of a buff to those speed 5 guys, and then it started to get sprinkled in other places, and then they're going to get charged. I mean, the Dash 17 with the war drum, they're not even playable without the war drum, I don't think. So, but Dash 17 is nice, but I mean, there's a lot of fast choices in the army, and I think that's where it ends up.
Okay, well, let's move on here to the Legionnaires. Your Legionnaires are your tougher of the regular orcs. Crush 1 here. Most orcs are defense 5, so I'm not gonna go over and over and over on these. But I know that Nathan uses these a lot. So Matt, we're gonna start with you here. What do you think of the Legionnaires?
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely take a hit and give out a hit. The list I made, basically, I didn't use them because I felt for the points, then I could get the other expensive stuff. And if I'm grabbing tokens, then I went with the Unforged. So but Nathan uses them, and it's the core of his army. So
Did you have the formation in your last list or no?
no,
No.
the Iron Boots, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is pretty good, and I've always tried to squeeze it in there, and because that really, the nerve buff there makes those things like really hard to kill in like a one shot. So
All right, Nathan.
Yeah, no, I'll jam 2 hordes of these in any list, and I've actually kind of like stagnated on lists because 2 hordes of those and 3 Hell Strikers is basically the start of all my lists at this point. it's I gotta like try something else for a little while, but I love the board presence 2 hordes gives. It can kind of psych people out. They won't live as long as some people expect, and elf shooting randomly just gets them, but they are also a lot of attacks when they get there. And with the war drums putting up to what, like 23, 25, they can be a pain in the ass to actually get rid of. So
Nick, anything to add, or you're pretty much there?
I love them. I've loved them since day one. I think hordes are super scary, but as people who talk to me know, I had such bad luck with them getting jammed up that I stopped using them. But in my current list, I have the formation plus 2 extra regiments of these guys. They take a hit and they counterattack, and then maybe when they take the second hit, they die. But that's the game, right? If you take a hit and live, you could do anything. So I think they're one of the best units in the army, but they're also like obviously the default unit too. So of course they're gonna.
So would you say they were, Nick? Would you say they're a mainstay of how you like to play the army itself? Then
right now, yes.
Okay. Well, we'll go on to the Unforged here. Now they only come in a regiment and a horde, and these are the crappy of all the crappy orcs. Not one of your favorite list units there, Nick?
I've been using a couple, but just as unlocks. And like I said with the Morax, is because I feel that the last update has made the Riftforged keyword less important than the orc units are easier to take. I've been toying with taking a couple hordes, because if I drop like one regiment of legionnaires, I can have 2 hordes of these guys, and that's a lot of beef to chew through. Especially when they're just there to take a hit and line up other guys to hit. But I haven't had a chance to play with it because I'm already locked into my Masters list. But yeah, there's a place for them. Some people don't think that there is, but they are, especially regiments, are pretty cheap.
Nathan, I know you've been playing around with these a little bit.
I did try, and basically I kind of stopped because you were my main opponent on Trine Realms, and Melee 4 going to Melee 5 is just garbage. So I just don't get the chance to enjoy them because you basically have all ensnare, and we had a few Trine Realms players kicking around the meta for a while. They're basically young axes, and with the war drum, like they get up to respectable nerve, but if you can't leverage them into the right units, they're hard. But I think they're fine. Like they're not bad by any stretch. They're just basic.
Right. Anything to add there, Matt? Or is
yeah, I mean, I use 2 of them in my army. They basically, to kill them in a turn, you got to double charge them. So I really like that, and they're just really good at holding tokens.
Cool.
At least out of the 8 tournament games I played, they won me the game because they held on to tokens and took a hit and just kind of stood there. And there's kind of like Nick said on the Legionnaires, they have such a huge, wide footprint. Like they block a lot of stuff, so they're there to hold their tokens.
Yeah, and they do unlock too, which is pretty damn good as well. So, all right, well, let's go on here to the Legionnaires. Now, I hate these sons of bitches. Like I honestly do. I have been kicked in the face with them enough bloody times. So, Nick, let's start with you here on these things. So these are the Crush 2 unit. They're kind of the I would say like the more elite unit for just your standard orcs, right?
Yeah, I like them. I've been using them just because I've been using the formation and they're included. If I wasn't using the formation and there's a different formation, I would probably just replace them with regular Legionnaires, just because I don't need the Inspiring because I use so many characters, and the extra crushing strength isn't so impactful for the points that I pay for it. But they're definitely a solid. Oh, and they don't unlock. but they're definitely a solid unit and have a place in the army.
Yeah, no, I did forget about the. Well, I shouldn't have forget about the inspiring. But having an inspiring unit, does that mean that sometimes it makes you feel like you don't have to take as many inspiring characters? Is that kind of how you guys think about this?
Well, I take my inspiring characters to punch people in the face, and the fit the theme of my list. So I don't really even take them for the inspiring.
Okay, Matt, how about you there? You don't have any of these in yours, do you?
No, I do. Yeah, I have one. Kind of
I
like.
swear I've played you recently. I swear I have.
Yeah, you did. I actually really like it because they do inspire, and like Nick said, a lot of your inspiring stuff is fighting on the flanks or somewhere else. These guys are there with everyone else, so you're getting that nice little bubble in the somewhere in the middle of your army, and then they crush 2. You can't go wrong with that, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? I know you use these guys, Nathan.
Yeah,
I know you do.
I love one unit of them. The inspiring is great. I usually nestle it between 2 hordes. With the war drum, they go up to 17, 19, and like Fury from the Shrine, so they can usually hit for an extra turn than anyone expects.
They can get up to 20.
Oh yeah, and the formation.
Yeah.
Formation gives them a nerf buff,
yeah.
and then you get the +2 on top. It's great. And then like I like them with Pipes of Terror just for like a free wound on a Crush 2 unit. It kind of gives them a little bit of swing. I think Matt was running them with Brew of Haste, which he said actually worked out well.
yeah, speed 6 gets them there a little bit quicker.
So much better than 5, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have wild charge if you have the formation.
Yeah, right. Like all of a sudden they're going up to 15 inches as an orc.
So since we're talking about we've talked about the formation a little bit. Let's go into the formation here. So it is 2 Riftforged Legionnaires and 1 Reborn. Sorry, what is that?
That's what we
I suck at these things. What is
everything is Legionnaires. It's either they're Riftforged or they're Reborn.
Oh, the regiments. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and they all come with the Wild Charge Aura.
No.
What?
The Reborn get the Wild Charge Aura, and then everyone gets a nerf bump.
There you go. See, I'm terrible at this.
And the aura only affects orcs and themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I mean, that's what with the boots on them. That's pretty damn quick, and you're not expecting that to come out of nowhere. So, God damn you, Matt, you and your bloody speed. This is all you seem to ever do. Whenever I play you in an orc, it's like, how fast are your orcs? Oh, their speed's 37. What? They can get across the board. Don't worry about it. Where you're standing, you're not safe. Don't worry. So, I know at one point in time the formation didn't seem as necessary. What about now then? Like in your current list now, is this something that you would always put in, or is this something where you look at it as it would be nice, or is this like a point saving thing?
So I haven't played around with it too much, mostly because I just like I said, my list is kind of stuck in a default state. So I want to go out and try it again. I'm not the best at piloting the regiments of Legionnaires. I can't quite enough work out of them. But I think with the flagger and stuff, I might try and do something like what Nick's doing, like an MSU build, and leverage the formation that way. So I want to go down that path for a little bit.
All right. What about you there, Matt? Like I swear I played your list.
Yeah, I don't use the formation because I've just got everything almost other than the unforged, everything's going for speed, right? But right. I do have I guess have the core unit there, but no, I don't have enough points really to mix it up and get the whole formation.
But Nick, you're taking this in the Masters list, right?
Yeah, like I'm the exact opposite of Matt, whereas all my stuff is slow. So I keep all my stuff slow. And if you're taking regiments, the formation's amazing. If you're taking the formation and everything else is, you're not taking regiments or a lot of infantry, then you're not going to gain anything if you're just taking it to say you take the regiment, you're taking it. Because I have so many regiments and they all kind of work together and have a lot of synergy, it works out pretty well. I mean, you pay very little points and you get nerve that really matters, especially with the war drum.
Well, let's talk about the war drums then, because I mean, war drums are something I never, ever, ever wanted to see in Riftforged. I hate war drums. I don't think I can kill war drums. I think I'm that bad. Where I played K2 once. For those of you who don't know, Skullface, the guy that runs the Orc Town, and I hit that thing with a horde of. Sorry, was it a horde or was it a regiment of the of Elven cavalry? And I hit him for 3 turns. and I did not kill this damn thing. I hate war drums. So tell me why I'm wrong. And why these things needed to be in Riftforged, other than just to, I don't know, maybe pare down an army list or not. But yeah, I'm not a fan. So Matt, make me a fan. Let's see if you can.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have all the orc units in the Riftforged without the war drum. They're just we mentioned the Morax, your Unforged, your Gore Riders, your everything needs the bump. Like it's basically kind of baked into an orc list, and any orcs are going to need that +2. They're wavered by a stiff breeze without the war drum. So, and then I mean, there's a plus and minus to that. The minus being that now you've taken an unlock spot, right? So you're kind of paying a tax for unlocks, and you're paying the tax for, what is it, 80 points? But
Yep.
It hangs out there too. Sometimes late in the game when you're really getting short on units, it's there to sit on a token or block something. Like I mean, they're the best and the worst unit probably, right? Like they're attacks, but you have to have them. You can't play without them.
So Nathan, when you started playing Riftforged, you didn't have the war drums at all, and I know
Yeah.
you were kind of crying out for them, and I was like, no, please God, no. But so I know it's sort of changed your playstyle, but I haven't really noticed that it's really changed your list. I mean, you've just kind of got them in. You haven't really dropped anything to put them in.
I basically dropped 3 Amber Oxes, but I was kind of going away from those anyways because I just didn't think the shooting was consistent enough. Like when Amber Oxes are great, they're great. When they're bad, and they usually end up in that midway point where they kind of do enough. Like they'll shoot a troop of elves for 3 turns in a row because you just keep rolling like shit. So it's hard to say, and they're all fighting for the same monster unlock slot. But I love the war drums and the dread. I don't get it in enough as much as I want. But between like Dread and Cloak of Death from the Giants is just a bunch of free wounds that I think is actually really good for us. So I absolutely love them.
What about you, Nick? Anything to add in on any of this?
Oh, I got a lot to say.
Okay, cool.
In a perfect world, we don't need them, right?
Right.
But they're baked into the balance of the orc list, so therefore we need them because we're really just a theme list on the orc list. But as both the other guys have already pointed out, we don't need more monsters in this army. I've been playing this game since we all started playing this game. I've never had a problem with unlocks, and I have a problem with unlocks every time I make a Reforged list. So it is so hard to balance the monsters, especially since the only decent shooting in the army is an Amber Ox, which is a monster, and then these are monsters, and the Shrine's a monster, and it's very frustrating to make a list. So I wish that we didn't need them. I wish that maybe they weren't monsters, but they are worth their points. I'll tell you that. And not just for the nerve, but as Matt said, they are very multifaceted when it comes to the end of the game, and everything matters. It's they're hitting on 4s and just crush one with 3 attacks, but a flank attack's a flank attack, and it's a couple wounds.
What about taking these things on the war wagon? Have any of you thought about this in the Riftforged? Like I know it's sort of something in the orc lift because it comes in the in with the formation, but have you even thought about I might really need this over here? Like it doesn't seem like something that would even come up. But how about the rest of you? Any thoughts on the war wagon mount at all, or just not a chance sort of thing?
So I think it really depends what kind of list you're playing. If you're playing all the height 2 infantry, it's not worth it because you get the height bump and all of a sudden you can be shot to death by everything.
Right.
Yep. So if you're running the chariots or Hellstrike or something, you can hide it behind giants. Sure, but it's also 30 points. It's a lot.
So it's more of that. What about you, Matt? Like I know you run fast. So
yeah, I have a faster list, but I find I could spend 30 points on that, or I can just deploy it so that it can march at the double every turn, right?
So you can either spend 30 points or play better. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, maybe that's kind of what I'm saying. Now, if you're trying to like make it with the dread and stuff like that, maybe it would work. But generally, if it's behind the boar boys, they're moving up and kind of pivoting, and then the war drum's moving up at the double, and it's right behind them the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
well, And Nick, I know you like to. You're the never-ending wave that's on its way there. So I'm guessing the chariot's never something you're going to be looking at. Is it?
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the points. I certainly don't want to make it a bigger target because if I could shoot at if my opponent had these things and I could shoot at him, I'm going to shoot at him. It's expensive. I would never take the war wagon. It's too easy to march. It's not like they're going to do anything else, especially the first half of the game. So you might as well just march. The dread upgrade is one that I agonize over more. I'd like to fit into my list, but I just can't right now.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Cloak of Death and Dread. I really am. So even when I've had characters and things that can do that, I always try and fit them in. They're normally the first things that come out, but I do always try and fit them in. All right, well, let's go on to Riftwalkers here. Now I know this might be a split decision. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, these are the nimble, fly, fearless kind of chaffy guys here. I mean, I know they're not like your typical speed 10 sort of things, but when we start with you here, Nick, because really I think this is a unit that you would probably deploy more of. So
I've never not played with two of them.
Really?
Yeah, two troops. They're very good. They're very lots of utility. You could use them for many different things depending on how the game goes. I often, as I found out in my last GT, forgot that they originally supposed to be chaff and never used them as chaff and paid for it all the time. But that's what they are, good chaff. They're also good at getting flanks and throwing some more wounds in there. And they're good at dying when the time comes. And who cares? That's what the game is. But the dash 12, dash 13 with a single drum, they're a solid unit.
all right. Well, I find them very very comparable to like the Phantoms for undead. And since we have Matt here, like what do you think? They're basically the same sort of thing here, or?
Yeah, they're kind of like Nick's using them. They're very chaffy, good unit. I mean, I like the wolves over these guys though. Again, but Nick's playing the slower list and I'm playing the faster one, so it totally makes sense, right? Like,
Well, that's part of the reason why we have the three of you that we have here. These are quite typically three different ways of playing orcs. So yeah.
So I love the idea of them, but I'm never able to use them correctly. And with the hordes and stuff, I find they end up never dying the turn I need them to, so they just end up blocking all my lanes. So it's more of just a player skill thing. So I can't make proper use of them, but on paper they look great.
All right. Well, since you brought up the wolves, why don't we go on to the wolves here? You're talking about the Tundra wolves, right?
Yep.
See, I've never been a big fan. I play a lot of Northern Alliance. My most consistent, well, other than Nathan here, is Mr. LaHaye himself, and he loves these things and can't get them to work. So Northern Alliance to these guys, they're exactly the same unit. Nimble, Pathfinder. They're big, they're huge, they're everything you want them to be, and they die every single time. I tend to find. So Matt, you were talking about the wolves. So why don't you go into them a little bit more?
Well, I can only really go back to the games I've had. Basically, if there's lots of shooting, you plunk them behind your unit when you're marched up, and now it's maybe you're giving the other guy a chance to charge. You just plunk it between the armies on an angle and say, okay, either you charge it or I'm going to flank something. Turn 18 attacks with Crush or Thunderous One, right? So basically, they're right there to just be really, really annoying. Plus, the threat radius on that 18 inches too, right? So I'll throw them into the biggest thing to block it while I double charge something else with the Hell Strikers and the Boar Boys or Gore Riders.
So these are height too as well. Does the height ever come into play, or?
It never has so far for me. I guess they're either leading or they're behind, and then they're just jumping. You're not charging through your own units, right? You're just putting them out there to be in the way.
Well, these I thought something like Leaper. I mean, the more I play with that rule, the more I actually really like it. So like a wolf who would leap over the units behind. But what about something like that? If we, in a perfect world, if we obviously we're not doing that, but something like this with this sort of unit, is anybody got any thoughts on that, or nothing that you would want to put onto a unit like this, or is that just?
Well, they're chaff in my mind.
Okay.
If you do that, then they're probably going to cost 30 more points because their utility goes up. But for me, I'd want them even a little cheaper, honestly. But yeah, they're like I said, they've done a lot of work for me, and you get them around. If you're playing them right with all the other speed, because I've got the Manticore, Flying Manticore, just the monsters, and then everything in my unit list is fast. So those guys are screaming up there on the sides as well, being annoying. So.
Well, let's get into the skulks. Like, I know this isn't a unit that you normally see. This is the short bow, just a bunch of attacks. These guys, they do have scout. So these are your super sneaky orcs that I don't think are that super sneaky and kind of die to a stiff wind. Nick, this is like, I know you like a little bit of shooting, but this is definitely not something
I do like a little bit of shooting, which is why I hate this unit because they're terrible. I did recently find out that they benefit from Rampage, which is cool, but I still don't really think it works out. They really need something to make them just a little bit more on par with other shooting in the game. I would like to take, like, I think that you should always have some shooting in an army because it's often the difference between winning and losing at the end of the game. It's just that I think that the math works out very poorly on this unit.
What about this terrible upgrade? Oh, I mean, just upgrade of Pathfinder and their melee value to 4+ for 15 and 20 points.
Yeah, two things I don't care about on a shooting unit, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, look, the unit has a place, but is there anybody here that would even use these, or is there even a place you can think of using them? Let's try positive.
I tried there was a while I was going through like Riftwalker, Thunderwolves, and Skulks, trying all 3 pieces of chaff with my list. And the first game I put Skulks on the table, John hit them with like a weakness from Twilightkin, dealt 1 wound, and took them off on a nerve roll. I'm like, well, I should have inspired them. That's my fault. But that also just kind of soured my experience with that unit. But yeah, the shots are basically useless. They got like 8 attacks on 5s. Then there's cover. Like,
it's almost if the
cute.
upgrade made it to like +4 to shooting, maybe that would be better.
Or if they just had 24-inch range without steady aim, that might be a little more useful.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. I mean, they have a place. Unfortunately, it's not something any of us are looking to use. I take it.
Yeah.
Wait, anything, Matt? No.
I really want to because I really like that idea of having those kind of like sneaky, go back to the old crossbow orcs or whatever. But I have the ones I've got painted. I really really like, but I cannot get them in the list. They just.
The other problem is, like, you want to make use of all the points, so you probably want to scout them up. Like, not every game, obviously, but then when you're scouting them up, you're out of range of the flagger, so you're not getting the aura from him. And then they get outside the drums, and then if your drums are up with them, then your drums are probably going to get shot to death because they're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, they feel just anti-synergy easily.
Yeah, and they're irregular.
Yeah.
And they're irregular, yeah.
Yeah, I think what you said there about the war drum, Nathan, is the big problem because they're generally in front of the other infantry. So now they're already out of that aura. Scout them even a little bit, and then they're getting shot off with one wound, which is too bad. Like, I don't know how you fix that. Maybe those ones you could. A new rule: they can't. You call them rogue orcs. They can't benefit from the war drum and buff their nerve because they're just always out of range of that war drum, and it would make them decent chaff then with
even like
+2.
Stealth or something, just to like get rid of, like, to give them some ablative, right? Like, they are the stealth unit. Like, you would think they're skulks. They should be. I know it's orcs. Stealthy orcs doesn't make sense, but
that's what
I think it does. I was actually
that's what they're
thinking
selling them as, though.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move along here. We're going to go to the Thunder Seers. Now, these are the monstrous infantry. These are the Cyclopses. These are the guys that I would actually go and play this army for. However, I know I'm going to be bad at them, so I don't know if I'm going to go down that road. But Spell Ward and Crush One, Pathfinder, really good. Like, have any of you even thought about putting these in? Was it a consideration, Nick?
I don't think this army wants Spell Ward. Get it out of there. Other than that, I don't think this is a bad unit. I think that there's some cool stuff you can do with it. It's nice to have one of these spiky units where, like Dire Fangs, where there's a lot of attacks, but they hit on 4s, and you can get a good roll and kill something. But when I look at their stat line and what I would do in a game, they always seem to come down to being too similar to Legionnaires. They have Pathfinder, which is nice, but I've I don't think they're bad, but I've never been able to fit them in a list and use them.
What about you there, Matt? Did you even look at these?
I tried them against the game against Nathan. He just charged in his Hellstrikers and killed them, so they don't have the range. I think like speed 6 is just like the middle is a mid speed. So and these guys are so beefy, people are lining up. And as far as the special ability to like redeploy, I'm not sure where I heard it, but I think somebody said that a good player deploys their army the same way every time. They don't really care what the other person does. So you even if you deploy them and then now they're over here, well the other person didn't even care, right? Like I was using the scrying gem as well to kind of mess with people. People they just put down their army. If they're good players, they put it down how they want. They're looking for the tokens and looking for the terrain, not you've dropped these 3 things over here, right? So I really wish that I want them to work too, because they are kind of a cool. Why I started going to the Riftforged actually was these guys, because I was like, this is really cool, but then they kind of let you down and crush one. And if you're trying to sell the models, like the models are awesome with those big hammers. Crush one, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Like
in an army that everything is crush one.
Yeah, they should be crush
there
2.
definitely should be a crush 2 army, a crush 2 unit.
Yeah.
And
Mantic wants to sell models, crush 2.
Yeah, up to crush 2. All right, we're gonna go back to you here, Matt. We're gonna go to the Gore Riders, which
my opinion doesn't matter on these.
I know what your opinion is going to be. Okay, I'm sorry. What would you like to say about Thunderseers?
It's basically just what everyone else says. I find I don't know what it is with them. Every time I've taken them, 2 wounds wavered every single time. I never get to use them. And then that and melee 4, like it works on giants sometimes for some reason, but on these guys it's even worse. It's like you get 5 hits and then that's it. And you can't even bane chant them. Like they contribute to the shrine, but now you're bane chanting on 5s. Like I don't know why Spell Ward. Because like them and halflings are pretty much all that have it. Like you could pretty much just affect enemy spells. We got rid of all the Aura spell ward in the game. The banner is gone. Yeah. There's no reason it should be hampering our shit, right? Like halflings don't even have access to magic aside from like the tome and stuff, a couple items. Like I don't think it would break the game, but no, I don't know.
I do find it funny that they are Riftforged, even though they are Cyclopses. But they see at least their upgrade is reasonable, like 5 and 10 points. That's reasonable if you ask me. So, but anyway, Gore Riders. We're going to start with you here, Matt, because you play with a lot of these bastards. So, have at it, mate.
It's just about the speed. That's right, they're without the war drum, they're not usable. So you have to have the war drum. I know Nathan really deploys like a block with his big guys and his shrine in there, but I find these guys are like lights out with that Fury Aura. If you can keep it within range of them, like the number, they're always wavered. I find they're always wavered. So if you can get that aura, that Fury Aura, then it's like, hey, like just an awesome bonus, right? So that's kind of way I've been playing them, kind of deploying with the shrine with them to really. But yeah, I really like them for the speed. Again, I'm more of an Alpha Strike guy. Get the charges I want. And a lot of times these guys are pretty cheap, so they're kind of the sacrifice, right? You're bringing Hellstrikers and the other guys in, like left to right, and then the Gore Riders come in, they hit 1 unit, but do 6 wounds and get killed. But then you've killed something more expensive on the other side, right? So I for the price point, I think they're really, really useful because they can do damage. Definitely can, hitting on 3s, crush 1. TC1, but they can also be sacrificed a little bit.
Nathan?
No, basically, I haven't actually used them all that much. I've only ever had them played against me with Matt, and they do great work pretty much every time they come into play. I like the idea of them with the formation, like getting the Wild Charge D3. I think putting them up to a 19-inch threat, a little semi-random, but I think it's also something to consider. So.
And what about you, Nick? Have you been thinking about these sorts of things?
I never gave much thought into them. Like I said with other things, with the last update, making the Orc keyboard more useful, they are better now. And I only started looking at them recently because somebody at a recent GT used 2 units of them, and then I looked at them. And yeah, they're decent. I've never played with them, but I may if I ever try a different list where it's not all slow stuff.
Right. So basically, it's I think a lot of people will be thinking the same thing. It's like Gore Riders or Hellstrikers. Probably not both. I mean, it's not that terrible, but Mister, I like to take 3 of these. Uh, Sarone there. Um, Obviously, fly. I think their most useful rule is life leech. I actually really do like this.
Uh,
I know you and I differ on it, but I really do like that.
give me a 10-point discount. Just take the rule off. It's fine. They get like 3 wounds back over the game. I don't think they've ever been like double ones done devastated where it mattered. Like
True.
it just it also feels weird because they're the only thing in the army with life leech. Like if we were trying to go like an army special rule, anything else, but they also have brutal, which brutal makes up for its points every single time. I think.
Yeah.
So I love them. I'll take 3 hordes till the day I die.
You
Orc
take
Town,
a
I'll
look
take
at Gore
4.
Riders every single time. Do you even look at Gore Riders because of these?
Pretty much not. I've considered doing like a double Hellstriker, double Gore Rider, something like what the Order of the Green Lady guys are, like trying to plug that into Riftforged using the Gore Rider as the cavalry.
Yeah.
So you get a cheap budget option. But yeah, I love Hellstrikers. There's nothing as great or as inconsistent as them. Hitting on, I don't know, something about them. They'll hit on 3s and they'll roll 5 hits and 2 wounds, and they won't kill a unit of dogs. But when they work, they're amazing. They're hands down. I want to start trying to run a unit with like Helm of Confidence, so you can just put it out on a flank, it inspires itself, and it can go off and do its thing. And then you have 2 other units in the lines that do what they need to do and keep tight with everything else.
Nick, something that I mean, obviously, other than the models, like.
I think that they are amazing. And one thing that Nathan didn't mention is that people seem to be very scared of them, which always helps you. But their height, because of their height, you can pretty much sit behind your lines and just wait, and you're going to get a flank. Eventually, you're going to get a flank that's impactful. I only take 1 horde now because I'm so infantry based, but you're never going to go wrong with them. I don't think.
And Matt, considering you hate all things that are fast moving, I'm
Oh, I love them. I wish I could have more, but yeah, the only thing I would agree with is I wish they were elite. I would drop the Iron Resolve for elite and brutal because I just find them very inconsistent. For some reason, yeah, you roll 18 dice on 3s, and you always roll at least 6 1s and 2s, and now because they kind of come off like they should be that one-shot deal, but you kind of have to play them like Nick said, a little cagey and get that flank, or else they're just not gonna. And they are a big target, a lot of points. People are shooting at them because they can see them.
Yeah, and they get out range of the war drums. Like the war drums are never going to keep up, so they're basically going to exist at 15, 17 for the majority of your game after they deploy into the enemy. So
yeah, they get
This is why war drums are bad. This is why, because they're always out of range of everything. They should just be taken out of the list.
No. See, we should just be getting a war drum on a Hellstrike Manticore. It's the best of both worlds. I'll pay points for that every day of the week. Speed 10 war drum. Let's go.
Oh god. All right. Well, after them, we actually come to the Orclands. Now, these are the actual swarms. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody not to take these for any reason. They're cheap. They do what they do. If you really want something to speed 5, we've already talked about it. Like, we've got something that's kind of a better chaff option. But there's nothing wrong with sticking these in front of like a horde of orcs and going, you can't charge me because you can't get through or you can't fit or something like that. I mean, I'm sure they've got their place. I'm sure they have a better place in orcs themselves. But I think that's about as far as we really do need to go on them.
Yeah.
We will go on to fight wagons. My favorite things on the planet. God, I hate fight wagons almost as much as I hate war drums. Nick, what would you do with these bloody things that never seem to miss and have way too many attacks and hit on 3s? Why 3s? Why? Somebody's done 3s. 4s, I would understand, but 3s, come on.
I know I sound like a broken record, but so much of my history with this army has been before they made the orc keyword better, as far as I'm concerned. So I never really played with them. They definitely are something that is formidable, and I've played against them, and they're scary. But now, especially now with they can have up to -22 if you have a war drum. They're good, but like so much other stuff is like they're competing with the same slots as like Hell Strikers and stuff. They're nasty, and they're crushing strength 1, right? So much is crushing strength 1. So it's a lot of this. A lot of units are just similar but different. This is one that would actually fit better in my army because it's actually kind of slower, but they're a solid unit.
Well, Matt, why would you you used to take a bunch of
Yeah,
I
I had 2 of them, 2 regiments, and then I swapped those to the Gore Riders because, again, we talked about speed, so I'm the one that's going for the +1 speed.
Is that
I also
the only
find with
real-
the TC on the Gore Riders, you get a little bit more of a hit. But then, like, somebody probably like Nick and Nathan are probably Bane chanting this a lot better than I am. So, yeah. I mean, being fearless is pretty awesome too, right? It's just about speed for me. I just play for speed. So
this is the one unit I will ask, like Legion, Horde, Regiment, Troop, that you can take this in anything. Is there something that like you guys would find better for something like this? Like for me, I've always played against it's always a Legion, it's always -312, and I can't beat it with a giant in the side or the player beforehand with a giant stick. Like it is. I just cannot beat these things. So, is there one that you would prefer with here?
I've only ever really seen them played in the legions around here. They seem to work good, and they kind of fall into that weird chariot trap where like a horde of chariots is a strange base size, like 200 by 100, and for what it wants to do, like hit and crush through and try and reposition, the horde is kind of unwieldy. Where the legion, being almost a proper rectangle, kind of positions better. So I think a lot of people like duck out on the horde and go either to regiments because it's basically a large cav base, or to the legion because it's almost a full square.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I don't have experience with either, but I would imagine I would prefer Horde because you can protect a Horde. You bring a Legion of Chariots, you know you're getting flanked.
yeah,
But if that's baked into your strat too, it is what it is.
just to like sidetrack, like Sean Vilmont for Masters, the other Riftforged Orc player, has 2 regiments of fight wagons and 2 legions, all decked out with items. Like that is the
Yeah.
core of his list. And it should also be noted, no chariots on his war drum. So even in the full chariot list, you know how to put war drums on chariots.
So it is just me then. Just like we've got the other Matt player who has the Alex Coos Legion of Chariots that I cannot beat, like for no reason. And it's the same with the player. Like I just cannot beat this guy.
It's because you're taking giants into it. You don't get the Slayer or the Rampage, so you have less attacks. See,
Oh,
it's
dude,
a skill issue.
I've hit this thing with 3 units all in the flank. I've done like 60 attacks in the thing, and it just never mind. I'm having flashbacks, and they're not good ones. So we're going with the gore chariots. Now these ones do have brutal, do have more thunderous, but they are not fearless. Like, would you take one over the other, or is this something where you're like, screw this, they're going to get hit, I'm going to need the fearless sort of thing?
Yeah,
What do you think?
we just picked them up in the last update, and I haven't had models for them, so I haven't put them on the table. So I just rather take Hellstrikers for the points. They're the same points. Hellstrikers have less attacks, but you have more speed, and I think they're a little bit more the flying and everything a little bit more reliable in certain guards.
Yeah.
And that's comparing like the Legion. And again, yeah, the Legion is a very big and unwieldy base. So
I don't know. I just find that something with brutal and with Thunder 2 might be better. I mean, it's something that I guess like you guys would have to play and try out here. All right. We will move on to the Amberox, who are trying to keep things
Just for the Gore Chariots, just want to say like this: the trade-off between the fight wagons and the chariots,
Sure.
They're big trade-offs. It's like 10 attacks at the Legion level, not being fearless. I don't know if I would really want those trade-offs.
Yeah. And the other one for like comparing Gore Chariots to Hellstrikers is your height difference. The Gore Chariots can't see over a hill, but the Hellstrikers can, right? And depending like your base size and stuff, like you kind of end up in that weird spot.
I do like things that can see over hills, I'll tell you that, because even though you tell people 3-4 times their height 4, and they're like, yep, I can see you. All right, well, let's go on with the Ambrox here. This is your standard shooting big mouth frog thing. What's the range on this? 24 blast 3, pierce 1. Steady aim, nimble is nice. Nick, what do you think of these things?
I like them. I think there's a spot in the list for them. I would love to play with them more. I did play with them a lot in the past. Make them a war machine. Stop making them monsters. That's what I would say. I would take them if I didn't have to, if everything in this army was a monster.
See, I wish they would pick up a rule called like Living War Machine that you could just
Yeah.
use the War Machine unlocks for them. Because like being able to run with a token is really important for them, I think, because they are unit strength 1. And if they were war engines, you couldn't do that. So yeah, they're great. When they work, they work. When they don't, they still do a little bit, right? So
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you guys. As much as I'm not a fan of the war drums, obviously, because they're terrible things and should never be taken in the army. But the war drum should probably actually be like a war engine. Like I'm not sure on why it's a monster per se.
it's so it can run to keep up with the lines because war engines can't run.
Well, yeah, I guess. But then it's one of those things where like, do you want the unlock or do you want the bonuses? I'm not sure on how you would put this in. But I'll shut up about that and we'll keep going.
That's the big problem. I think it's the unlocks. Once the war drums came into this list, you
Yeah.
lost these guys. Like you had to switch. So
Were they a consideration before for you, Matt? Or
I
was
had
it-
them. Yeah, like that was. I was like, oh, this is great shooting, and then now you got to tack in 2 war drums, and your slots are all gone. You can't build a list without. There's just not enough unlocks in the world for these guys. I think, but it is cool to have them kind of marching along beside the army. So I guess yeah, something's got to switch. One of those things has got to go to war machines or something, I guess, to make it work, or else just give us some different shooting.
Or just a special rule that says our war machines are more monster unlocks or something.
Yeah.
It's actually not terrible. But all right. So let's move on to one of my favorite things, which is the Storm Slayer. I actually really like this as an entry. It's basically a mini giant. Speed 7, fearless, crush 2, nimble, like all really good things. All really good things. I know this is a monster and it's only height 3, but I feel like it's more of a mini giant sort of a thing. But maybe like with the options of it having like a Slayer or Rampage D3 sort of thing might be nice. But that's for future me to worry about. But the Storm Slayer in general, Nathan.
Yeah, I like it. I've only used it a few times. It's done great every time. It is Riftforged, so it does actually get the war drum buff if it's a close enough. So it gets up to like 15, 16 dash fairly easily, and it does consistent work. It just doesn't make it into all the lists.
Nick, this looks like something that you would actually take.
Yeah, I've only put it in one list. The one that I played between the 2 GTs I played this year. They didn't work out great for me. I think I played against you actually. They didn't work out great for me, but I think that was just my inexperience with them. But they do fit my list very well. But again, they're monsters, and that's a problem.
All right. Matt, any sort of
Exact
change
same.
to it?
I really like the idea of a roving troll, nimble troll coming out there, and a little cheaper than the single Hellstriker on his own, right? So closer maybe to a werewolf, but you don't have the unlocks to try to squeeze him in,
Yeah.
and he doesn't fit. Then you're kind of stuck, right? But I really like the idea of it. It's just war drums take their spot every time.
Yeah, it's too bad because I really find a lot of good uses for this sort of thing. Like even if it came with like the Wind Blast or something, it's still a damn good unit. Like you said, though, you're just chalk for choice. Well, you have one choice. It's the drums. Like,
Basically.
and if you've got any extra, it's from there. Let's go to the Storm Giants. This is your normal giant. However, Cloak of Death, one of my favorite things. It also comes with one of my favorite spells, and always has been, Wind Blast. I've always found a good use for Wind Blast. Nick, let's start with you here. I know you being a former Wind Blasty type person, you would.
I do like Wind Blast myself. And I was like an OG Wind Blast Enthrall Ganakai when Trident Realm first came out. But I think this giant's awesome. He comes with so many special rules. They're all good. They're cool. I'm trying to fit one in a list. But you know what I'm going to say? He's a monster.
Well, he's
He
just
is great,
tiny.
though.
Yeah, you know, is it the same? Is it not the same? It really is. Like I really like this. I know you've run two before, Nathan, with
Yep.
these guys, and used the wind blast to great effect. I wish they would almost come.
Yeah.
They have Storm Strike. Why don't they get an option for like Lightning Bolt? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Like,
Yeah. If anything, for the Wind Blast, I'd say talk to Matt because he had the most success and disadvantage with that spell.
Yeah, I've thrown 6 dice and missed on all, so don't rely on it. I think it's more of something where you're like, you don't want to require it. It's more of just like push stuff back to be super annoying.
Yeah.
Good players though, they stack their units. Oh, there's that individual. You can't stuff they don't want wind blasted can't be wind blasted. So
I always forget. I use it all the time, and I always forget to block up my own shit because I'm an idiot.
well, you got
Giants
war
and
drums back there to block too, right?
That's
For
true.
if you're
And-
playing a mirror match.
Giants love war drums because a 2022 giant is a thing
Oh,
of beauty,
Yeah, no, that is just not right.
especially with if you get dread on the war drums, cloak of death from the giant, 2 free wounds every combat. So
Well, okay. Well, every giant comes with the same sort of thing. I'm a big component of always taking Slayer. I always find that it just makes more sense. If you're going in 14 attacks, yeah, whatever, you're still going to have a lot of, well, my giants that I normally take are going to be a lot harder to kill. But is there one over the other? Do you guys all like to take like one of each sort of thing, or is this like? Let's start here with you, Matt. Why not?
Yeah, if you're taking 2, I'd take 1 of each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's just one, are you thinking, is there one that you normally take over the other, or it just depends?
I guess it's more about your tournament local meta, right? You know what people are playing, but I like both, and then you kind of pick, oh, well, here's the infantry. This guy goes over here. The other guy, stuff like that, right? So,
Nick?
Slayer all day. I got plenty of Rampage in my army. And one thing the giant would bring to the table is lots of crushing strength. So you kind of, you know what you want to fight with him. So I think Slayer in my list definitely would benefit me more. Just going after the other Titans and stuff rather than more Rampage.
Yep. Same here. I think like defense 6, like Steel Behemoths and Greater Earth Elementals are some of the hardest things I have to deal with. So I'd rather just send a giant into them and not have to worry about it than my hordes of infantry take on your regiments of defense 6 stuff and should be able to grind out from there.
Well, let's get into the Flagger, which is let's just say it's going to be interesting. This is the guy that gets the. Am I wrong, or is that the Godspeed? The Flagger is the one that gets the that gets
Rampage X. Yeah.
The Rampage X, right?
Yeah.
So why isn't it on here?
It's strength in numbers. It's the special rule.
Oh, there you go.
It's very convoluted.
It is. So inspiring the flagging thing, strength in numbers works great. Which also works on shooting, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, Nick, you're the one that's taken 2 of them, so let's start with you, Mr. Master Sir.
Yeah, when this is actually the unit that made me come back to the army. It really fits the theme that I'm going for, that someday I'll have models for. And it's cool that you take a 50-point character, and not only does he buff everything else around him pretty well too, if you're fighting the right kind of army, but he's also a pretty good vehicle for smashing people in the face. If you're running in, you can have 4 attacks yourself with Rampage, and you are a prime target for a host Shadow Beast, and all of a sudden you're throwing 8 dice. I'm bad with him, and I throw him in too often, so he's not a great support in the front with a friend, because he's really easy to walk through. But that's just because I'm not that great. But I love this unit. It went from a unit that I would never take or even think about to a unit that I'm never not going to take.
And I am never going to be able to unsee that. My God, 8 attacks on a 50-point model. Holy shit. I didn't even think about that until you just said that now. Fuck me. Oh, God. Oh, I feel sorry for some people at this point. Nathan, so we're going to be seeing more of these then?
At some point, like I said, I do want to move to like an MSU, like multiple small unit build, and that's what you play him for. Like it doesn't work for me currently because I only have 2 hordes in a regiment. Like I'm getting at most 2 or 3 attacks. it doesn't really flesh out, and I don't need the inspiring because I have 5 inspiring sources in my list. But as soon as you get like 4 or 5 units, the rampage does go a long way, and it does a lot of good things.
Matt, anything to add, or you pretty much?
Yeah, because I have more of an Alpha Strike list. It doesn't work there, but
And this is something that even with the it does have a chariot option. Oh, it does have a mount option, but for 25 points, you're not probably doing that with yours, are you?
No. I did have them one time, and then I think it's like Nick said, you got to play well too, which I don't do all the time. So
I beg to differ there, Mr. Number One in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Well, in Ontario, I
in
should
Ontario,
say.
in
The
And
only
Ontario.
part
King
of the
Beyond the Wall, I
Northeast that
refer to it
matters.
as getting host Shadow Beast drunk. Like you see that, oh, I can host Shadow Beast this guy. I'm gonna throw him in that fight too, and then he dies.
And then it attacks another unit, and I'm like, hey, I like it. All right, well, let's go on to the God Speaker. Mr. Cerrone, we will start with you. So this is your tribal magic user type guy that is the orc convert.
Yes.
So
I love how cheap he is now after the changes to spells. I think I've ran him with Alchemist Curse to good effect, or even slapped an item on him like a Scrying Gem or something. He's just so cheap for an unlock. He's at that point where it's like you don't want to spend 30 points on items, but you'll spend 30 points on a drop with some random item or something like that.
yeah, I just realized that 25 points for a bloody I'm just going to put something down, so you got to put something down as well. Like what the?
And he does have access to heal, which does get the tribal magic benefit, but only if you're running the orc stuff. So it'd be cool to see if he eventually got like a bonus for Riftforged models or something like that. But I think he's great. It's a fun addition.
So Matt, like, is this something that like 25 points? Like Jesus.
Again, we're starved for unlocks, so you can't take too many of them. If the war drums didn't count, then yeah, you're probably rocking a few of them. I have one with Scorched Earth in my current list. When they initially brought in the list, I was like, oh great, we find Riftforged finally get the heal that we never had, and then I've never used them for the heal. But yeah, I think I think maybe Nick's list might work better there because then you got a lot more, little things to buff and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm just basically a Scorched Earth caddy in my list right now.
Nick, sorry, is this in your current list or?
No, I'll be honest. I'm very ignorant about this model. I don't know how tribal magic works, and I probably would take it if it worked better. It's if I can bump up that heal a good amount with my list, I probably would take them because the Stormcaller I've been taking is really just a caddy for the stealth spell, and he costs 20 more. And as I said several times now, I don't care about the Reforged keyword as much as I used to.
Yeah. So you could have taken that with Veil of the Shadows and that. Damn, that's you wouldn't be able to get them up to the same amount of dice, so that's the only drawback that you're looking at there. Well, we've got the God Speaker and you've got the Riftforger. Now the Riftforger only has access to Banechant, Host, Shadow Beast, whereas the God Speaker is Heal, Hex, Blood Boil, Banechant, Bob's Your Uncle, Fireball, and probably something to do with destroying your granny. But yeah, the other one being just your standard level 2 spellcaster at double the points, but it's also 3 attacks and probably a hell of a lot better.
He's the halfway point in between like a combat hero and a spellcaster because we have the full 3.
Yeah,
he's a lot of people put him on a mount, give him Host Shadow Beast, and just send him off. Let him have like 7 attacks in it. I think Nick's playing that exactly.
That's what I do.
Yeah. He's great. He's cheap. He does a thing.
Def 5 always throws me off with these guys. Always.
Yep. Just don't throw him in the front of a combat with another unit because it's usually a free kill.
Which I do.
Yep. So, I got to live the dream one time back when I think previous Host Shadow Beast. I had like 3 Riftforgers and Thonar charge a unit. They didn't break the unit, so he got 4 overruns at the end of that day.
Ouch.
So if you're looking at these two, is this like one of those things where it just depends on what you're looking for? If you're looking to save points, you're going God Speaker. If you're looking for
Well, this
Like,
guy doesn't really compete with Godspeaker. The Stormbringer, or no, Stormcaller does. They're kind of similar.
Well, let's move on to that. Is Stormbringer, Stormcaller,
Stormcaller.
Yes. Okay, there we are. So Lightning Bolt, Icy Breath, Bane Champ, Blizzard. Yeah. So a different host of spells. Man, you guys are not. You don't have any lack for spellcasters here. This is really good. One attack, okay, but still def 5. Like this is. So we've got 3 of them here. Is there one that you guys are taking over the other? Is there or is it just sort of like you need to pick the one that is better for each one? Because really, you're not really 25
We're
points.
spoiled for choice.
Yeah,
basically.
like this is really good for spells, and being able to take what you want and kind of put them down the way that you need to. So is there one you, or is this just choose what the best is for what your list is doing?
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's more the
So
way.
it's like if I want library spells, I'll usually grab a God Speaker because he comes on a cheaper body. And then
Yeah.
if I want like Lightning Bolt or Blizzard, I'll grab the Stormcaller because it's the cheapest options for him. And Blizzard, I was actually quite impressed with it because it ignores cover and everything. Has the Pierce 1 and it's a Blast D3. Like it's a kind of a Halo spell. It's minimum 12-inch range, but he's usually kind of far enough back that it doesn't matter. And by the time they get within 12 inches, you're going to throw a whole Shadow Beast on him anyways and charge him in. So.
What about you there, Matt? Have you got anything on these or?
Well, they're Riftforged, so they kind of let you cast the off of the shrine onto them without seeing him bouncing it, so that's good. I really like the access to the lightning bolt. So basically, I like those units that have something for the whole game. So at the start, it's lightning bolt. You get fighting, and then he's grabbing some whole shadow beast, but he's also giving +1 to the shrine, being that's a Riftforged unit, so it's giving it that +1 to its lightning bolt and all its stuff. So that's where the God Speaker isn't as good around the shrine, because usually you're kind of moving those guys all together. So that's I think I originally was just taking the Stormcallers, but then when I really like the Scorched Earth against all these giants out there that don't know Strider, so you're trying to hinder something. So that's when I was like, I really need this spell on my list. Otherwise, I'd have 2 Stormcallers because you got a little launch of lightning bolt there.
Well, let's go on to the Storm Shrine then, because I mean we're talking about magic, and there's nothing more magic in the list other than the Storm Shrine. I mean, -17 Spell Ward, which always blows my mind. The fact that it, like you said, it can cast spells on 4 separate spells it can cast. Is that correct? Or
it can bounce host Shadow Beast up to 5 times, but you can be alternating with the other spells, so the total number of casts might be a little bit less than that, depending.
And you lose dice every time that you're doing this.
Yeah, you have to track because you lose a dice off each successive spell, but each of your spells start off at a higher range. But you can't bounce lightning bolts because that would be probably a little bit unfair.
So this is a Titan that's height 4 that can see over, that can shoot, that can hold tokens, that can take quick title. Is there any reason not to take this thing?
Well, no. Nathan told me a lot of times, don't take that, it's too many points. But once you start playing with it, it's too awesome. The Fury Aura, come on, like everything about it is amazing.
We got to hear Nick's because I know Nick's ready.
Justin would always tell me this is a bad unit, and I would tell him he's wrong. I've never not played with this unit. It's good, and it's sometimes great, depending on how you play and how your army is. I don't see this. I think it's an auto include mostly because it kind of makes the army work the way the army wants to be played. Yeah. So I don't know why you wouldn't take it. But again, it's one more thing taking up a monster choice. But it's also, besides it being good, besides it making the army play the way it wants to be, it's fun as hell. So I would never not want to not play with it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't think there's anything else we read. Like, this is a damn solid unit. Don't play with it if you don't want to, but really, like, there's no reason not to bring it in.
I think as soon as you have like 3 infantry units, you probably want to bring it in because the Fury Aura and like the 3 Bane Chants, because you kind of do, because we're only all Crush 1 unless you're Reborn. You do kind of run into a problem against Defense 6. If you don't bring the right stuff, you need a lot of Bane Chant. Well, the Shrine's going to give you 4 Bane Chants in a turn. Well, theoretically. So.
It benefits from slower armies too, whereas if you have a really fast army, then it might get outranged. But if you're slow,
Yeah.
it's kind of like always around a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. When I'm playing it, like if it, because my list is faster. Again, I'm trying to deploy it kg so that I can keep it up with the stuff, right? So, but you can't obviously move it a double. You lose. But I mean, there's just so many. There's always something to do with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like it's got 8 attacks on 4s with Crush 1. Like it'll kill a flank if it gets there, and it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to me as well. It's done some damage to me. Well, the other thing, height 4. I mean, at least it's still getting cover out of a lot of the units that you're putting out. So, I mean, in a pinch, you could always put, you know, a Hell Striker in front of it or something, and you're still like doing a good. You're stopping. You're being able to see, but you don't always need to be able to see with this thing either.
Well,
So
that's the other thing. When you're casting spells, you go to line of sight, so you could put Hell Strikes in front of it, cast onto them, and then cast off to everything else, and have it kind of blocked in the front for a turn.
yeah,
So.
and at least you just can't be shot to death in it. Death 5
No.
and dash
People
17.
If people are shooting at it, that's their mistake, right? It's dash 17. It's not crucial to fight. Like and it's got the spell ward, right? So like I don't usually try to find cover for it. I put it right up there in the front. Okay, shoot at this one, then I'll send my gore riders that really could have got killed by that lightning bolt or shooting you sent, right?
Or ballista or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Just don't disrupt it. Then I'll be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hex is the bane of our existence.
Trickster's wand is not your friend, is what you're trying to tell me.
Even Torque, like if they
I love
torque it
that
and
thing.
get rid of like Bane Chant or Host Shadow Beast, you kind of screw up your numbers all of a sudden, right?
Well, let's go back here to the Stormbringer.
Yeah.
So this is your heavy infantry hero. Yeah, Def 5 attacks. You know, Mighty, Inspiring, Crush 2. Here's your guy to stand in front and go rah rah. But I think we've got more than enough of these things to do the rah rah thing, especially if you're bringing Host Shadow Beast. Like, are these guys even something that you're looking at, or like is this something that you care about in any way? Because you've got so many other ways of doing the exact same thing still.
Yeah, unless I'm trying to make like a budget Thonar, I don't even really look at them. They're just
Same.
kind of there.
So this guy is basically the lower version of Thonar, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you put this guy on the mount, he's 135 points as opposed to 170 for Thonar. Like,
Yeah, you give them Storm Strike, so you kind of have the same damage, so it's 140 versus 170. So, but you're one less attack. I think you're less nerve because Thonar's 14-16, or is he 13-15 as well? Oh, he's 14-16.
So is this a guy that any of you even, or is he just kind of like an entry in the list at the minute, or something that you would put in? Damn it! If I only had 10 more points, I would upgrade him, but I don't, so I'll stick with him, sort of thing.
I've used in the past. I would never use him now. I think that so many of his contemporaries in other armies have like some unique aura or something that they bring to the table these days, and he does not. He just brings his 2 extra attacks up from a Riftforger.
Yeah.
And Matt, you would be the one guy I would think that would think about running this guy instead,
But then you got the Stormbringer on Hellstrike Manticore for what you just mentioned, another 25 points. Like, for fly, of course. Like, and then he's a little bit tougher, right? He's
fly, brutal, life leech.
Like,
keep going, Matt. This is a great segue. Keep going.
There's just too much there with the Stormbringer on Hellstrike to take the Stormbringer. And yes, I take 2 of them in my list. Now I would take 10 if they were good. So, or if I could. Again, you're starved for unlocks again with these guys, but
nimble as well. The only thing they don't have that the other one does is the fact that it's an individual and he can turn and he can take out things. But I think that we've all been touched in a bad place enough by certain players that may or may not be the mustache. That we should have learned by now how to play against flying things. If I was playing this army, this would be the way that I would go. I love these things. Again, life leech, and I know you and I have talked about this, Nathan. And yes, I understand that you're not a big fan of life leech.
I don't mind Life Leech on these guys, strangely
It's better
enough.
on these guys.
It is
yeah.
better on these guys than it is on the Hordes, I find. Like, I love these. I take two, just like Matt. I've debated taking 3. I think I've done it. They're just great. They'll carry a token as good as anything else. They survive a turn longer than most people expect them to. Crush 2 off the bat. I don't have to worry about losing it to Thunderous. And when they get a flank 10 attacks, is just money.
What about you there, Nick?
I think they're good. I used them a lot in the past. They don't fit on my current list, but
Not in the build that
solid.
you're doing. So we've got a Stormbringer on Gore Chariot here. I think the only thing we have to look about here is, again, you're looking at this compared to what the Hellstriker on Manticore is. I'm not saying this is a untakeable bad or whatever unit, but when it has a little more nerve. A 14-16 does matter. As a guy that plays army with things that are 14-16 and 13-15, my God, the difference is night and day. That one pip really does mean a lot.
But it loses the life leech. So then
it loses the life leech, and it does lose. It gains Storm Breath, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever use. I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever use these.
Yeah, because it's only 12 inches. They charge 12 inches.
Yeah,
16.
we picked him up in the last update, and I don't even know why we got him. I think it's literally because we got the Gore Chariots to here have a Gore Chariot hero just so you buy our models.
I don't want to say that there's nothing. I mean, there must be somebody out there that is going to be like, no, I really like it, and I'm not telling you, or I don't think any of us are saying this is just something that is unplayable or that. But when you look at the two, you're spending the same amount of points for something that is just not.
I just wish he was Rat 4. It's only a 12-inch gun.
Yeah.
He's gonna get I don't think Rat 4 would break him that much, and I think it would make him really interesting to look at. Right? You look at the Dragon that has Rat 4, and that still kind of doesn't see play. So
yeah, I think that would definitely be a lot better. All right, let's go on to my second favorite thing in this army. The Stormbringer on Wing Slasher. I absolutely love this model. I love the way this thing looks. I love everything about it. It's a nimble, goddamn dragon with Crush 3 and Fury. The one thing it needed more than anything else. Fury. Dragons need Fury. I love this. I absolutely love this. Matt, I know. Sorry, you're not playing with this in your army. You're using a big model to say it's the horde of whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's where I always get mixed up.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is the points, right?
It's well pointed. 295 for this thing is not terrible. If it was 10 points cheaper, I think it would actually be in a sweet spot. But
yeah, I just think the regular one on the Stormbringer on the Hellstrike Manticore is just, again, you're both of them. You're looking to get up on a flank. You're looking to do damage with the crushing, and both fly. So you're both looking to get tokens. You can almost get 2 for the price of 1. So, I mean, it is really. If it had lightning bolt, like the rat guy, I think maybe he'd be something different. But
I'm actually kind of surprised that, again, that he does. It just would make. I know they've gone with Storm Breath. I know what they're trying to do here, but Nathan, what about you? I know you use this guy and he disappointed you, but
I took one at Orktown, so I had 3 Hellstrikers, him, and 2 Stormbringers on Manicore. I honestly wish I would have turned him into a 4th horde of Hellstrikers, which is what I will probably do next time. He does good work, but if you can't leverage him properly, he's just 10 attacks, and there's just sometimes where I'd rather at least just be charging him with the extra 8 from the Hellstrikers. They hit just about as hard with an item, right? Because you got about a 30-point difference. Bigger base for blocking things off and stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's go down because this is the last thing we actually have to talk about. We've done this quite well. So is Velda here? Velda Har? Velda?
We got Vodler or
whatever his name is. Yeah. The Cyclops Riftforged master guy with the Crush 2 strength. And again, Pathfinder, Nimble, Spell Ward, redeployed, Grand Seer. But that's the only thing I'm not sure about.
And That lets you take unlimited redeploys with the Thunder Seers.
So if you wanted to
normally
do an entire army of the whole thing, yeah. So I haven't seen this guy on the table. I mean, I know
anyone who
there's
has.
yeah. Sorry.
I said, don't know anyone who has.
Yeah, I think I
I've played
heard.
him once, I think.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody tried. I think Alex tried a all Voidwalker list at one point in time so that they can all redeploy. But as Matt was saying, it's nothing that people are just going to deploy their army, right? So
Yeah. I think you're more taking him for like the defense 6-15-17 with war drums, right? Like that is actually a scary stat line at that point. But he's only 7 attacks and he's 200 points. Like there is the trade-offs, and I think you're probably paying for the Grand Seer and the redeploy when wherever your war drums are, he's gonna go. And it's like, oh, is he on the left of the war drums or is he on the right of the war drums? Right? Or is he in the center? Ooh. I don't know.
It's really too bad. They're not really taking advantage of these Cyclops dudes. Like, I think it's a really good idea. Just
I don't know. I think redeploy, like it's been thrown around a lot in the faction, right? Like the rat one, it makes sense because you're putting it on war engines, and if you can threaten a table quarter with war engines and then go, okay, well they're not actually over there, they're over here. But with like units and stuff like that, like you can kind of see where they're going to go because you have to leave these big spaces, right? Like the horde of Cyclops isn't a small base. You have to leave a spot for it, otherwise it gets jammed up on things. So.
Yeah, it's too bad because I think it is a kind of a cool thing, but don't know where you're right. You're paying for that grace here, and I think good players just know how to deal with redeploy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess we haven't really talked about Thonar. We touched on him, but
we did actually talk about Thonar. We didn't kind of go all the way through him. I mean, we did talk about how the fact that he kind of does everything, and he does it when we were talking about the Storm Striker. So I mean, if you want to say anything about him, now is the time. It's kind of
if you're running him and you're not yelling Thunderstruck every time he hits somebody, you're doing it wrong.
Damn right. You should be singing it or playing it on your phone or something.
He's amazing if you can afford him.
Yeah. The only thing I find annoying is that you have to keep the blast dice separate because the blast dice from the Storm Strike are the only thing that actually hand out the Thunderstruck. But I think that's all just a problem with Kings is that we're rolling too many different piles of dice. Like the Undead Catapult. Oh, let me see how many. I have to roll a D3 to see how many rerolls I get on wounding. Why? Just give them 3. It doesn't matter. It's Catapult. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So, but he's fun. He does the things. So.
Well, it was pretty much like the entire thing here. I mean, I'm trying to think if I don't want you guys to read out lists or anything like that, but there's like we've already talked about this. Nathan, you play very Horde. Nick, you play very MSU. Matt, you've always been one of these guys with nothing but chariots, Gore Riders, chariots. I mean, is there anything you can say about the army, or something that you find missing in the army that brings you that you might want, or something like that?
Unlocks.
Just
because if you want to have fun and have a little bit of everything, you can't. Because
the only thing I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it is kind of like a little bit of a testament to the faction with the upgrades and everything that we do have 3 very different build styles that are all kind of working for us, right? Like it is actually a well-designed faction. It might not be like top tier, like it might be missing a rule or 2 here, but conceptually it does work out as a faction.
So the only other thing that I think people would ask is Def 6. Like, is there anything other than like your Bane Chan on your regular units of that? Is there anything that you're taking specifically for a Death 6 thing?
I don't think we need to, because there's so much Bane Chan availability, and everything is at least crushing 1. I don't even think about Death 6 for this army.
I like Helm of the Drunken Ram on a Horde of Hellstrikers just to put them up to crush 3 and just hopefully hit a unit and go through it and then try and harass from there.
And what about you, Matt?
Because flanks, because everything's fast. I'm going for a flank, and then you're doubling attacks against a defense 6. that happened one game there in my last tournament against whatever is the Steel Behemoth or whatever. It's not gonna survive that from the Hellstrikers. So.
All right. Well, I think that about does it, guys. I mean, thank you very much. This went as smoothly as I was hoping it would, and probably smoother. No, I think you guys give a lot of good insight on an army that not a lot of people try and play. So, thank you very much. I thank you, Nathan, Matt, Nick. I really do appreciate you guys coming on and spending the time here today. And that's goodbye again from Nerf Check. See you again soon, guys.
Cheers.
Right.